about the how-tos or the basics of a lap book. And I'm answering 3 questions. What is a lap book? How do we use a lap book? And what are some of the no-nos of a lap book? Okay, so I want to start first with what is a lap book. We're going to talk a little bit about how to actually make one, and then the value of a lap book. And normally, just so you know, I'm going to try to hold this to about 30 minutes, but I have a lot to say, always. I'm Tina Robertson. I've homeschooled for a long time, from pre-K to high school, and there's a lot I want to share with you. It doesn't do me any good if I just talk fast. Okay, well, I like to talk fast just because I'm excited, and I get excited about homeschooling. I get excited about lap books. I love all of it, but I talk fast anyway. So I have to have my notes here to keep me on the path so I don't get off track, because I love sharing everything that I know with you, but I don't want you walking away here overwhelmed. I want you to walk away with being able to actually do a lap book, okay? And just a little bit, let me just tell you just a little bit about myself so you'll know the kind of teacher I am. I'm not crafty, okay? I don't view myself as a crafty person. But my blog, Tina's Dynamic Homeschool Plus, I know it's a long name, but every word in there really meant something to me, and it still does. And dynamic means changing, constant changing. And I wanted to do things that were opposite of my comfort zone. What's comfortable for me wasn't comfortable for my sons. Lap booking didn't feel comfortable. It felt like a lot of work. It felt like a lot of crafty stuff that I didn't like. And I had to overcome some of my thinking on how to use a lap book. And not just that, I had to adjust it to my comfort level and to my son's comfort level, which was way more important than my comfort level, because I want them to learn, right? Okay, so let's define what is a lap book. And first, I'm going to show you kind of how to make a lap book. Then we're going to go into the B part of that, which is what do we do with it after we have it, and how do we set it up, and how long do we keep it, and how long should it take to make it, and where do we get the ideas from? Okay, I'm going to try to answer those as much as I can. If you have any questions too, just pop in there down below, and I'll try to get to them too as I can. Okay, first I said you can use a lap book out of file folders. That's what basically you use, file folders. I have both letter size and legal size file folders depending on the topic. Like, for example, I know ahead of time that the Amazon rainforest was going to be a big topic for us. I knew that we were going to stay a long time on it. So we have let me get these little vines straightened here for you. We have a legal size file folder for the Amazon rainforest. Okay, this is the legal size one, and I knew it was, like I said, I knew it was going to be a little bit bigger. And then you also have ones that are letter size. Now, first, for those that are beginners, let me show you the little magic of what we did. This is, let me get this all straight here for you. This is the file folder that I started out with. I just have a whole box of them, right? You may have them laying around the house. This is the outside of it. So basically what we do is we take it, we push that center down, and we bring these two sides over, okay? Now, I like the pretty color inside because my boys liked it. Some people fold the light color inside, but we like the little darker color inside. And I think about the topic of what our lap book's going to be about. Like, this one would be a good one, like for the ocean, because it has the blues in it, or maybe rainbow. So you kind of think of some of those things. And sometimes you don't. You just use what you have around the house. But anyway, this is what we do. We fold it over, okay? That's the first step to it, okay? And then what we do is, you'll notice with this lap book that I have here is that this is clear packing tape that I use to go down the spine and to firm it up some. It will give it a little more stiffness so it stays through the years. These lap books that we did, goodness, my sons that are now graduated, I think they did this in 4th grade. That's how long they'll last if you take a little bit more time setting them up. And it depends on how long you want to keep them for too. I use them for a memory aid, for an end of the year evaluation, something for my sons to have to show to their grandparents when they wanted to show off what they were doing or their projects. So I took a lot of care when we set ours up about how long I wanted them to last. Okay, so I have the file folder, the clear packing tape. I use the higher quality glue, the same type of glue that you would use like on when you're scrapbooking. I use that type of glue. Higher quality map colors, the same kind of material that you would basically use in scrapbooking, which a lot of people say, well, it's like scrapbooking. It is somewhat, but there's a lot of value and there's a lot of learning that comes from it. And so sometimes scrapbooking is just done, I don't know, I guess maybe some ways there could be a comparison because they're both done for intrinsic value. Oh, hey, Vanessa, glad to have you here. I know that was crazy. I was trying to sneak on here and I'm trying to beat a storm coming over here. And so I'm hoping I'm going to, and I won't lose you again because my videos aren't just a few minutes. I talk a long time. So happy to have you here. Pop questions if you have them. But anyway, and then you can see here we had yarn. We have yarn. We use this one for the Amazon rainforest, and then high quality coloring pages. So you want to kind of gather all of that together. Scissors, of course, you obviously need scissors. Okay, so now let me explain what it is after I explain kind of a little bit how you do it and the material that you need. It is something for like to teach a topic. Now, let me explain something about Lapbooks. And this really will kind of be, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? This is kind of weaved into the whole conversation of Lapbooks. You can really overdo it. I tend to overdo a lot of things. And I really had to watch myself in the beginning because we almost gave up Lapbooking. Because between the coloring that my boys happened to not like at the time, the crafting and the cutting, I just didn't see how it benefited us. So you have to, those are the things you have to look past or arrange them to fit your kids. Okay, and some kids love coloring, some don't. Okay, mine happened not to like coloring, and we weren't really using it for coloring at the time. So what we were using our Lapbooks for in my homeschool is we used it both for enrichment, which was to add to the curriculum or topic we had, and I used them as a way to evaluate at the end of a unit study. The problem with that is that I want to put everything in a Lapbook. I want to encourage my kids just to keep going and put everything in a Lapbook. And the same good that comes from a Lapbook can be the same negative. You can get your kids burned out because you try to put everything that you know about a topic into a Lapbook. That's not going to work. Your kids may not want to do it, or they may want to. See, each family is different. That's the point I'm trying to make. Each family is different. It can be as comprehensive as you want it to be, or it doesn't have to be. It can be standalone. It can be in addition to something. For example, you can take, I have a book right here. Let me just show you this book. You'll be hearing a lot of flip and flop around. I'm gonna throw some stuff over here out of the way so I don't knock our camera down here. But like when I did one, we have 6 free nature studies in the group, Homeschool Dynamics by Tina Robertson. And so when I start with a topic, there's 2 things that I look at when I decide what's going to go into a Lapbook. And by the way, just so you know, there's usually about 7 to 13 mini books. And when I mean mini books, those are the tiny little books that are folded inside of the Lapbook. Here is one we did on wildflowers. Hold on one second. Let me flip it over the correct way for you. And let me show you here. This one is the one we actually did horizontal. Okay, so you can also do it horizontal. This is a letter size. There's different ways to do it depending on the topic. But these are the little mini books that I'm talking about that are inside of your Lapbook. So when I decide to do a Lapbook, I think about the different topics that we haven't covered on a subject. For example, I was showing you this book here about the seashore, and I have one free for members only. Membership does have its perks in the group. I have one about the seashore. And so, sure, I can go online and I can look and see the topics, but where I start from is first I think to myself, what do my kids know about this topic? And you know, the longer you teach, the more, hey, Cynthia, the more that you'll understand what they want to know or what piques their interest. You can use Lapbooks for learners that are burned out. You can use Lapbooks to lure learners back to a particular topic. And so what I do is I use two things, like I said, both what my kids know and they don't know, and then what I find in a book. And so, like, for example, taking this book here, I look at the table of contents, anywhere from beach cleanup, mermaid's tears, sand art, pebbles, shells. See, from that comes your topics. Those are ideas to spark. Okay, those are the topics here, seaweed, jelly. You know, there's going to be a lot of hands-on things that you can also use from the book. Recipes you can add to it. So I start first a lot of times with a book if I'm doing a new topic. Like this was kind of a new topic for us, so I used it as a guide. And you know, the good thing about that is that I could do my kids this way. We could learn all day long, but they might not like me if I kept doing that. So it keeps me reined in as a teacher if I have a guide to go by. Here it is right here, a book, table of contents. You don't even have to whip anything out. You don't have to plan, prep, write it out. It's that easy. It will spark your interest. Then what you find in here in the book, you can also add from the internet, right? Okay, so that's how I start. I start with the book and those two things, with what my kids know and don't know. And then I remember, okay, I think 7 to 13 topics. And that's the next thing I do. I kind of write out my topics. Okay, what is it? Before we even get to the part of the mini books, I haven't even explained this. We haven't even started this with my kids. This is teacher prep. Okay, this is teacher prep. This is what I do. Okay, so that's where I start. That gives me a foundation for what's going to go into my lap book. Okay, and that helps you also, so you're not, what do I put in here? There's no right or wrong to lap books. That's the beauty of it. It's what your children enjoy doing. It's just, what is their interest? For example, let me give you some things that could go into a lap book. Now I have a post on my blog, on my website, Tina's Dynamic Homeschool Plus, that 75 things you can add to a lap book. I won't go over all 75 things, but they're just things that I have used through the years in the lap book. You can do a little mini timeline. You can put a little globe. You can put a mini game in there. You can collect a feather. We added, let's see, I think what we did is we added some beans. We went to a coffee shop and added some little beans in there, shells, snake skins, grass, sand. And you can put these, you know, those little, like I would go to Hobby Lobby and they have the little tiny little Ziploc things that jewelry goes into, or maybe beads when people are making, doing jewelry work. Those are great. Those are great for adding to a lap book. They contain put your items in there and they stay for years. You just staple them in there. It's a great way to save their work. Okay, so they can have handwritten work that goes in there. And get this, you'll love this. Worksheets go in there. Worksheets. Yeah, sometimes we have to use worksheets. Now I'm going to show you how I ended up putting the worksheets in there. Here's a piece of paper, right? Okay. All right. It's just a plain piece of paper. We're going to pretend like it's a boring worksheet, but we want our kid to do it. We found something on the internet and they kind of like it, and it's fine. But something about folding it in a teeny tiny way brings it alive. It just makes it more fun than just pulling out the worksheet and showing it, right? Hey, Mary, good to have you here. Okay, so here's the worksheet. Okay, it's this easy. You take the worksheet, they finished it, you fold it in half. That's 2 steps. Oh, that's 1 step, actually. You think they let me count? You think they let me homeschool by count? That's 1 step. Okay, and then I just kind of eyeballed it. I folded this real quick before I hopped on here. I just kind of eyeball it and fold it into fourths. Isn't that just the cutest thing? And then they design their cover on the outside. They design their cover. This part goes glued to the lap book. That's it. It's way more fun than just saying, here, look at this worksheet. But now they can unfold their work. They can memorize it. They can interact with it. The Lapbook becomes an interactive, hands-on tool. Does it take longer to make? Absolutely. It takes longer to make. But I do help, and especially the younger my kids were, the more I would help them with the books or whatever. I don't just say, here, do it. Some kids don't know where to go. Some of us, you know, as teachers, we don't know where to go. We don't know where to start. And I don't view that any different helping them than, say, a teacher in public school would hold up flashcards, or she'd make flashcards, or she'd make a game. It's the same thing with our kids. When they're younger, they need a little bit more help. As they get older, then they want to add more to it. Okay, so let me just review real quick, and then I'm gonna go on here to this next topic about how to use it. Remember, it's usually one central theme, and no, we can't put everything in it. It's gonna have 7 to 13 mini books. When I mean mini books, see there how I did a worksheet? This one little worksheet, there's one mini book. You can put that in there. And kids just like to interact with this. You know what I think of it? I think of it like going to a museum. You know, we go to a museum and you walk through and you're learning about a topic, any topic. It can be a very serious topic. But if we're able to push the button and listen, and we're able to turn the little wheel and see the pictures, that's kind of what a Lapbook is. And no, I'm here to tell you, it is not just for young people. If I've not read that once, I don't know how many times I've read that in the homeschool world. It is not for preschoolers. Because my sons even did them in high school, and this is why. It requires a lot of thinking to decide how to narrow down that topic. What are we going to put into this Lapbook? It's a project. How am I going to present this visually to other people so they can understand? How am I going to get out of my mind what I've learned and put it down on a piece of paper so I'm clearly communicating to you? A lot of people use them for preschoolers because they're fun. They like the crafty element of them. They'll color and they'll cut and they'll glue some pom-poms on the outside of them, or a jelly bean or gingerbread. Yeah, they're fun. I did those things with my sons. But as they got older, they wrote reports in them. And they become very interactive because they have to plan. It's critical thinking. They have to plan. What am I going to put in here? Does this make sense? Does this make sense, what I have in here? Okay, so here's how we can use it. Here's ways we can use it. Now, oh, sorry, told you, the beauties of life. Here is the thing. I have to admit this. When I first started homeschooling, I was probably like a lot of new homeschoolers. And we always think, well, there's going to be something about public school that, you know, my kids are going to miss out on. They may end up going back. I kind of held that fear. I didn't really tell anybody that I was just so convinced in this homeschool lifestyle. But it didn't take long. After a few years, I put more effort into making homeschool work instead of looking what I left behind, because I knew I didn't want that. I didn't want that. I knew that I just knew that I could give my sons way more while I was homeschooling. So I put more effort into making these tools come alive and fit our family. So in the beginning, like the point I was making was that I was scared about sending them back to school. I thought maybe I'd have to prove to somebody what they were doing. So the point I'm making is they make excellent year-end evaluations. They really do. You can look back and you can say, this is what we did. So if you're one of those few states that have evaluations, portfolios, you do a couple of these, you take them in, you let your kids talk about them. They're great. In the beginning, I have to admit, I kind of did it for that reason because I was scared. But after that, this tool grew into so much more. And this is why, because when we would do it one year, I could add something for the next year. And when I realized I could do some of the cutting, and I didn't have to do it all in one day. No, we don't do it all in one day. How many mini books would we do a day? It just depends. If we had a full day of school, we might do one mini book at the end of the day. And this is why, because it requires usually, it wasn't just filling the mini book out and cutting it. The emphasis was on learning the subject they wanted to learn. If it's about pebbles, sand, the beach, then the majority of the time was spent reading and learning about that topic. And then what they learned could just be reduced to a little small mini book. And let me tell you, it's great for for say writers who maybe they're reluctant, maybe budding writers, they're just like, I don't really want to write a lot. Okay, here, look at these little tiny spaces you can write in. They're like, oh, well, I can do that. You don't want a huge essay? And then gradually you do more. Of course, my sons in their lap books that they have for high school, we stuck their essays down into clear, what are those things called? Page protectors, clear page protectors, and saved them like that. But in the beginning, oh, here, just put 3 facts that you know about the rainforest. Oh, well, I can do that. You know, and the mini book's small and it's fun and it's their work, right? So that's how you started off, by just something like that. So memory aid, a visual for hands-on learner. Did I mention it's just a tiny treasure? I mean, the lap book that I just showed you earlier is one we've had for years, and my sons are, you know, past high school now. And they can go back and they looked at it. And the thing about it too with the lap books is you can just keep adding flaps to it. Okay, let me show you some of these other ones that I have here that I want to show you. Now, I was telling you that, hold on one second, that you could use the letter size. Sorry, guys, I don't want to make y'all sick here with this camera moving. Letter size or legal size. Now, here's for the mom that's overwhelmed. That was me, okay? So we don't have to prove anything to anybody. We don't have to have one lap book per kid. We get 5 or 6 kids and we're like, oh no, we can just do one lap book. That's what I did this year. That's what I did this year. All 3 of my sons were different ages, different grades, and I just attached, and I'll put that link too, don't let me forget, I'll put that link when this live is finished in the bottom. But each son added something that he wanted to, and I just put these file folders, these are several file folders that are attached together, and we just kept building and building and building on things that they wanted to do. And that's what I do. So I would just say, do one. And, you know, I don't know, what do you call this? A scrappy book, a scrappy lap book? I don't know. I called it a lap book. But all of them did one. Depending upon their ages and their grades, you know, they would add their information to it. In the back of the lap book, I would put pictures like from our field trips, co-ops. You can put a pocket here. You can add more of their work to the back of the lap book. You can have all of them do one lap book. This actually, here's a game in this lap book. Here's the playing pieces. Let me get this over here. Hold on one second. Oh, there you go. I wanted to flip this. You see, here's the playing pieces so they could put them, it's like a puzzle. So they could choose which president to put those pieces on. So it's beautiful to get your children engaged in independent work. So you've got this finished, okay? They'll get it, they'll pick it up next year. You can add another flap to it. Actually, that's what we did to this book. We ended up talking about Texas in it. So I added another flap in here about Texas. First it was the Civil War, then we brought it home to Texas. Let me just show you how we did it here. And here's the flaps. Excuse me if this is a little bit flimsy, trying to get all of this up on the camera so you can see. I will be doing some videos where I have the camera down on it, and I will show you actually how to do some more of this. And you see here's a little pocket parts. I've got them in little Ziploc bags for the pieces. It's a geography game too. They come grab this and do this because it's their work. And what kid's not enamored with themselves, with the work that they did? And so it draws them into learning. It gets them engaged. It serves as a memory aid. You can add another file folder to it next year. Is it a lot more work than giving them a worksheet? Absolutely. Yeah, it is. And you know what? You don't have to stress about it. There's no time limit on when to get it done. Now, I wouldn't say stretch it out too long, okay? Don't stretch it out too long. Go ahead on and get it done because they want to see the finished work. And then put it away for a little bit. Put it away and then bring it back out. Now, what I did was with them when we were homeschooling, just so you know too, is I have magazine stands, magazine holders, and they fit in a magazine holder real well. And so some of them I would put up and put away that they did say, you know, a couple years before, and some of them I would have down, and I would shuffle them around, and then they'll take their lap book back out, and then another grade, another level, they might go in depth into another subject. Like this one, like I said, it has a Civil War, it has a geography study on Texas, it has the presidents, It has genealogy in it. And we just kept making it bigger and bigger. And like I said, here it is. I took a lot of care with it. Now the outside, the stripes, what I was going to tell you, this reminded me of one thing, is we had a dear person in our co-op whose husband worked at a paint store. And they have these discounted, or I should say, out of stock wallpaper books. And if you don't want to use your ink, if you don't want to use any of your paper, you can hit some of those places and ask them if they have some of those books they're throwing away, because those little sample pages, they have globes, they have themes, they have nature, they have geography. And some of the things from our lap books come out when we cut out of those sample pages, like from the wallpaper books that are from these places like paint stores or wherever, where they're just trying to get rid of them. And so you don't always have to use what you have at home. Now, I would recommend that you use high quality cardstock. I didn't mention that earlier when I was talking, it just dawned on me. Cardstock lasts longer. You can't, and then when they would do their paper, then I would have them write some in notebook paper because they like the lines. And then eventually, as I started creating lap books, I don't know, I think I have more than 30 free ones on my website, Tina's Dynamic Homeschool Plus. Then I would start making little lines for them as I got better at what my kids needed and how other readers on my site wanted to use them for their kids. So then I started making the lines on them. But you don't even have to do that. You can even just take out a piece of paper, cut it in half, like I was showing you earlier, this one here, cut this in half, have them write something on this side on a notebook piece of paper, glue that in, fold it over, do the cover, there it is. That's a lap book. But here's the thing. There's so many free lap books now and templates. Sometimes you can't find something on topics you want and you do want to purchase them. But there's a lot of free templates and you can even make your own. Like I was showing you earlier how I folded this little piece of paper just to make this one come alive. So you can find those, you can make your own. A lap book is really unique to your kid and to you. And don't make it go on and on and on to when your kid's like, are we ever gonna get this finished? You know, go ahead, get it done, get it finished. Now, here's the thing too. When you're making them, I don't glue them right in the lap book. I get everything together, we research, we talk, and then just decide how your kid wants to write the information in the mini books. Sometimes my sons wanted to cut out the mini books and then write on the pages. They're smaller, right? And then sometimes they would want to write just on the 8.5 by 11, the regular size notebook paper before they cut it out, because it just gave them more room to hold the paper and slant it so they could write. So you decide, those are some tips. We would do one or two, staple them, whatever, and then stick them in a Ziploc bag and just hold them until you're done till the end. And like I said, it's about 7 to 13 of them. Don't worry what order they're in. Don't worry what order you're learning them in. None of that really matters right now until you lay out the file folder and you open it up and then you start arranging them on the file folder. But otherwise than that, don't worry about it. Just go on, you know, because it's not going to make any difference. Okay. Let me talk about this third thing right here. No, no's, no's. Okay, for lap books. There's nothing that sucks the joy more out of a lap book than telling a kid you're going to craft, color, and cut if they don't like it. So like I was telling you earlier, what I would do I would cut their mini books for them, unless you're teaching them how to cut, okay? And sometimes preschoolers, you are teaching them how to cut. So you do want to learn that. But if your kids aren't learning how to cut and they already know how to cut and they know how to write, well then don't put the emphasis on cutting. And for goodness sakes, if they don't want to color, there's plenty of clip art that you can use that's free. They can make their own cover. Some kids prefer to make, and there's a lot of kids that are artsy and they prefer to make their own cover. You can deal with that later. The emphasis should be on the fun of making it interactive and deciding, you know, is this going to be a timeline book? Is this going to be a round book that shows a life cycle? Is it going to be 4 flat book? And there's going to be 4 causes of World War I in each one of those. That's kind of what I think about when I'm thinking of the different lap books. You know, what are the causes of it? What book will this, you know, will it be a 4-tab book because there's 4 causes to it? Something, I'm always thinking that way when I see the topic that either I've pulled out of a book or a magazine or any other topics my sons come up with. But like I said, I always like a book because it kind of narrows a topic down for you and the chapters give you a way to start. So from there, I think, okay, this would make a good timeline. you know, of Shakespeare's life. Okay, let's put a timeline of his life when we're talking about that. Let me see, I didn't think I grabbed my Shakespeare one. I have other ones in here. Let me see, let me grab this one here. This is ancient Greek that I grabbed on this one. And so what we have in here, like for example, this one is, can you answer true or false? Which, you know, they can take the lap book out. And the thing about it is, this is even great for those of you that have an only, because they can take it out, they can flip these cards over, play games, concentration type games that you could add in here. And like, for example, this one here that I have with the, let me see if I can pull these out of here. I should have got these out earlier. Okay, this is the Go Fish one that I have for subscribers on my website. And some stuff I just do keep for subscribers on my website because I appreciate your loyalty. And so I give you some things just there. Like, look at these little ones here that I put on like high gloss paper so they would keep. They can pull these out, they can play with those, they can lay them out, turn them over, flip them. I mean, it's just a lot more interactive and fun way to learn than instead of saying, here, match these on a worksheet. And I just love things like this. And so I have a lot of games and of type Go Fish games, and I just store them. I tore the little pocket taking it out. But anyway, I just store them in the little pocket here. And then the other things, why study about ancient Greece? And then looky here, different lives. Sparta, just a minute, in Athens. Oh, this is not easy to mess with these with. Okay, well, there you go. Some of these have got glued. Some of this I just did for a model for you to show, but to show you, I mean, I did it like a model lap book. So here's the different lives, Athens and Sparta. You can compare those two. And then see some of the material I would add, and they would just add that to it. I mean, I don't have to make them research every mini book. You don't have to make them do that. Sometimes they can just have information already in there, and then you say, okay, here, put it in. They learn that way. You make it as complicated as you want or as easy as you want. You know your kid, you know what they'll tolerate. And same thing with this one. Here's a pull-out tab on the famous Greeks and their contributions. But look, I mean, not much writing, but it goes a long way to their attitude on learning, to your kids' attitude on learning. And then they can come back and they can look at this years later and say, look what I have. Look what I can show for it. Okay? So that goes back to the no-nos I was talking about. Don't overcraft unless your kids want to do it. Do some of the cutting and only do like one or two. Don't say, okay, we're going to get all this done in one day. That's a lot of work. Think of each one of those mini books as like maybe a day. Okay, so there's like 7 to 13 mini books in a lap book. That's usually a rule of thumb. For my many years of doing them, usually it's about 7 to 13 that I can get into one. So sometimes we might do 2 in one day, but just think that's like 13 days, maybe. So, maybe 2 weeks. I know people that do lap books exclusively, and by the time the end of the year, they have like 30 lap books per kid. That's all they do. But they're tiny treasures. It's your kids' work. You can add as much of their work as you want to. Kids will want to engage with it because it's their work. So don't make it about crafting. Don't make it about coloring, and don't make it about cutting if they don't want to do that. Really make it about enjoying the interactive parts, and the focus should be on what they want to put into it. That's the focus. Really, what do they want to add to it? Not, let me see how I can make this thing look perfect. And like I said, a lot of them, let me show you this one here. This is the art of foraging. The art of foraging. This is one I have on my group for you that's free on the Facebook group, my closed group. And so, they're all made. You don't have to use any made. Your kid can just use them, make his own, and use what he makes. Like get a cardstock, fold it over, and make his own. And here's the other thing too. I'm gonna tell you one more thing I do on my website that I don't do. And I can't tell you how many emails I get on this constantly. They want to know, where is the download? The one download. Where is the one download? I usually don't do it that way. Now on my group, my closed Facebook group, I did, I do have all of them in one download. But as a rule of thumb, I add the mini books to my site as we're doing them. One download at a time. And this is why, okay? I don't want you to download a bunch of junk that you're not going to need. It's clutter and it's a waste, and trying to go through all of that will be a waste of time. So I prefer to just give you one mini book at a time. So you can use part what I create, part what someone else creates, part what your child creates, to create your own unique tool. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? And then you have something that lasts a lifetime, and not just lasts a lifetime, but when you bring them up and down off the, off the cabinet, and you're storing it up there in your schoolroom, then your child will want to bring it out, and he'll want to add another flap to it. And when I mean a flap, I mean you just cut out another piece of the letter size or the legal size. You use the white packing tape that I told you I use, and I like white packing tape because it's it's clear and it's not ugly. It doesn't take away from my kids' work or their coloring work that they want to do. And then it just firms up your lap book to last for a long time. So here's my notes. I'm looking over here to see, does it really, let me go a few of the questions that I've gotten. Does it really matter the order when you're placing them on the lap book? No, it really doesn't. And it really doesn't matter what you put in your lap book. What I do is I think about the topic too. Like, let me think of another one I created. Like when I did the American Robin lap book, in my mind, I just think, wouldn't it be great at that age? And I was teaching a younger, let's see, I guess maybe it was at second grade. Wouldn't it be nice just to have the robin there and then just label the parts of a robin, the parts of a bird, then talk about the eggs, then the life cycle. So the life cycle, I used a circle mini book to help my sons. Then I had a great big picture of the robin. One of them wanted to color robin. The other one didn't want to color robin, but he did want to know the parts of that bird. So they just labeled it. And that was a big mini book. And I just stuck that in the middle of the lap book. Then we were questions like, where do they live? And there's a little geography for you. So lap books, sometimes they get confused with people. They think they're a unit study. They're not a unit study, though you can use one to prove you do a unit study. And that's where sometimes members on my group, they may get a little confused. They think a lap book is a unit study, but it's not. You can do a lap book with a unit study. You can do a lap book based off one chapter in a book you enjoyed, or just a book, vocabulary words, root words, just different terms that you want your child to learn from a book. Math, they can do one on the addition facts. It's a lot more fun flipping up those little mini pages and learning the math facts than it is just writing them down on a piece of paper. And then they have them with them. They can take the lap book with them like my boys used to do, and take them with them and look at them. And then, oh, this is really wonderful. At the end of the year, you have a little party, and we would do this, have grandma and grandpa come over with their family and friends, have some cake, and the boys would get up there and they would show what they would learn, and they would prove, what they learned. And oh, I loved it. It's a great way to review. And we're constantly asked, how do you know what your kids know? Well, I see what they know. They're telling me over and over what they know. And especially when it's their work product, when they go get the book and they say, look, look what we did. Look what I did. Look what I learned from this particular topic. Look what we learned about the Civil War. Look at all these things that we learned. And then they show them and they pass them around, and the information becomes theirs. They own it. And lap books are a great way to help them own the information. And like I said, it doesn't stop in preschool. Yeah, there's a lot more lap books probably for younger learners than there are for older learners. But they can also make theirs when they're older. And like I said, I always had my boys do a couple. I didn't make them do one on every topic, no. But I did make them do a few because it helps them to organize their thoughts, condense it down to something that's attractive. It's a skill they need in work. It's a skill they need, whether they're doing a career track or whether they're doing a college track. They have to be able to know how to whittle the information down, make it appealable, work with other people. And then I would also have them work together, like this one on the Civil War. They had to work together, right? I mean, I'm sorry, you have to work it out. Everybody has to have a place for their content on there. So it makes them work together. It fosters the siblings when, I would say, rivalry, but no, sometimes it did do that. But really, it helped them to be together and draw closer to one another. So no, don't make yourself crazy and think every kid has to do one. They can do one. They can just do one. Or, like I said, you decide. On the Amazon rainforest, we knew we were going to have art. We were going to talk about science. We knew we were going to talk about the flora and the fauna of the rainforest. It was huge. Each kid's lap book was huge, and we took a long time doing it. But by the time it was finished, they were so proud of it, and they would just come back to it year after year. Okay, so those are some of the basics of lap booking. I want to wrap this up and let you know that I have a lot of them on my website, Tina's Dynamic Homeschool Plus. I think I've covered a lot of the key points. I do plan on getting kind of an overhead video shot instead of just showing. I mean, I wanted you to see these because I want to explain as I was doing them and telling you what I was thinking. I didn't really write anything down as I was doing it. I didn't know you have to, have a plan like that, but I just wanted to tell you my go-to places. I think first, what do my sons want to know and what they're interested in and not interested in? So I know it'll pique their interest. I don't want to do it too long because I don't want to burn them out. You can do it exclusively and get it done sooner. That's great. Have it there. They'll be proud of it. And it's a good way to show at the end of the year their evaluation, what they did. You decide how much cutting and crafting that they want to do. If they're artsy, knock yourself out. It's great for that. If they're not, there's plenty of pages to color. They can put them in there, but take your time doing it. Don't put a lot of pressure on them to produce. When you do the pages, put them in a little Ziploc bag, put them away. Don't worry about how they lay on a letter or a legal size page for right now. Just do their work, and then you can lay them out in a file folder. Because like I said, there's really not any rhyme or reason one's wrong. We're going to complete one. How long do you work on it for the day? All those questions it depends on what you're doing for the day. Sometimes, I guess I could say for me, it probably was half and half. Sometimes we would just dive into Lapbooks because we were ready for a change. Tired of workbooks, we would read, we would do a mini book. We would play a game, we'd come back and do a mini book. And then I would save the time for gluing just another day, and then make sure they're all glued in there real nice, and then let them dry overnight, and then decide how you want the outside cover to look. This was printed, that's what they wanted. They wanted their picture. The other ones I threw on the floor, down over here on the floor. They colored them with high quality coloring pages, cardstock, high quality glue. Think of them lasting. Think of them tiny treasures lasting for a while. Think of them as evaluations at the end of the year. Don't put stress on yourself. Don't think you have to do so many each year. Enjoy. The emphasis should be on enjoying. It's an interactive tool. Does everyone have to do one? No, you don't have to do one. I rolled my eyes when I first started homeschooling because I thought they were crazy to be doing that. And I almost did like a majority of people do when they first start Lapbook, and that is it's cutting, coloring, and crafting. Not anything my boys were interested in. And then I thought, whoa, we're not doing this right. This is an interactive hands-on tool, and I need to make it fit my family. And that's what you need to do. Let it fit your family. If they're not interested in it, don't do it for the day. Put it away. But by the end of your journey, more than 30, 40, 50, 60 lap books you'll have. I have a lot of them put away in totes that I still need to get to. These were ones I was able to grab quickly. These other ones I just glued real quick because I knew I wanted to hop on here with you and talk to you about how to lap book. So I wanted to have a little model I could probably tear up. But like I said, I use cardstock to keep them. It makes it heavier. You can write on they can write on notebook paper, glue that in. And then remember, any worksheet, boring worksheet, with just one step. I guess maybe this is one step. Turn it sideways, fold it, okay? Do this, fold it in fourths, and there you go. You have the cutest little lap book. Cutest little mini book you've ever seen. And something about that, kids just love to interact. It's a worksheet, but something more fun about interacting with that in their work, especially when they get to put a little cover on the outside of it. You glue this part to your file folder, you're done. You have a great lap book for a topic. So remember, a lap book's not a unit study, though it can be. We always happen to do, that's the other point I was going to make to you, where I get a lot of questions about this. Do we have to do a lap book to do a unit study? They think a unit study is a lap book, and it's not. It was just my proof, our proof of what we did. It's not all that we learned about in the unit study, but it's just some things we enjoyed. So you don't have to put everything. Don't do that because your kids want to do another one. You don't want to put everything in there that they learned. But I'll tell you what, when you add pictures and their collections and the 75 things that I have on my website, 75 awesome things to add to a lap book, like I was telling you, timeline, mini games, puzzles, pictures, beans, shed skin of snakes that we found, leaves, We have beans, coffee beans, went to Coffee Bean House. My sons have so many things they've collected, you know, in their little lap books. And it just really, they're like, oh, look, when I got this. And then I always add their picture on the back. And you can make a little pocket on the back of it, add their picture. It's a timeless treasure. It's a timeless treasure. Besides, it helps their memory. Overall, we've loved every minute of doing lap books. And like I said, y'all know me. Y'all know me. I'm not the crafty kind. I don't run to crafts. I want everything planned and laid out. It's the way I roll. I feel more comfortable with it, but I don't want to feel comfortable teaching. I want to get out of my comfort zone. That's why I put the word dynamic, to remind myself constant change. And that's what I want you to do. Constant change. Try one. If you have any questions, post them in my group, Homeschool Dynamics by Tina Robertson. I have a new Facebook page, How to Homeschool Easy. Be sure you're following me there. And then I have my website, Tina's Dynamic Homeschool Plus. Okay, that's it, y'all. Thank you, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.